Why failing is actually your secret weapon for success. What if I told you that one of the things we dread most, that cringy, stomach-dropping fear of failing, is actually the very thing you need to succeed? It sounds nuts, right? But get this. A recent survey found that almost half of young people see themselves as failures, a lot of it tied to how they do in school. Another study pointed out that a whopping 66% of young folks are scared of failing, mostly because of what they think others expect of them. We're all chasing success, and we're terrified of messing up. But what if that mess up, that spectacular fall, is where your real power is hiding? Stick around, because we're about to totally rethink what failure means. From when we were little, we've been taught that failure is the bad guy. It's the red pen on your homework, the project that never took off, the business idea that flopped. It's that quiet, I knew it, that hot feeling of embarrassment, and the dent it leaves in how we see ourselves. We learn that failure is the opposite of success, a complete dead end, a sign that we're just not smart enough, or good enough, or capable enough. This idea is so stuck in our heads that just thinking about failing can stop us in our tracks. So, we play it safe, dodge the big challenges, and steer clear of anything that even smells like it might not work out. So many of us are held back by this fear because there's just so much pressure to nail it in school and in our careers. But here's the tough part. This fear, this deep down dislike of failing, is often the real thing standing between you and what you want. Seriously, think about it. How many amazing ideas got shoved in a drawer because someone was scared they wouldn't pan out? How many passions were never chased because learning felt too hard, with too many chances to trip up? How many times have you hesitated or played it small because the idea of failing was just too much? This fear doesn't just stop us from having huge disasters, it stops us from having huge wins. It keeps us stuck in okay, wondering what if, while the people out there doing cool stuff are, well, they're failing. They're failing, then they're learning, and then they're growing. What if trying so hard to avoid failure means you're actually avoiding your biggest breakthroughs? What if failing, when you look at it the right way, is the best fuel you can get for your journey to success? I'm here to say that old story about failure, it's wrong. I want to tell you that failure isn't just some random, unlucky thing that happens now and then. It's not just a little bump you hop over and try to forget. Failure, when you actually use it and see it differently, is the key part of your success story. It's like a masterclass you can't sign up for. You just have to go through it. It's the real, unfiltered info, the tough stuff that builds your strength and sparks new ideas. The most successful people and amazing inventions often come from bouncing back from a bunch of setbacks. They knew a secret that we're about to get into. Failing isn't the end. It's how you're formed. Take James Dyson, for example. You know, the guy who made the super cool bagless vacuum? That thing wasn't an overnight hit, not even close. Dyson made an incredible 5,126 versions that didn't work before he finally got it right. Think about that. 5,126 times his idea failed. That's 5,126 chances to give up and think he was wasting his time. But every failure taught him something. Every prototype that didn't work gave him a new, vital piece of the puzzle. He actually said, "I've always thought that failure is a great thing. Success is a bit dangerous because you don't learn anything from it." All that trying, powered by what he learned from thousands of duds, eventually turned into a massive company that changed how we all clean our houses. He chose to make that time a lifetime, a time for learning and pushing his limits, instead of dead time, just feeling bad about what went wrong. Or how about Oprah Winfrey? Her journey to becoming one of the most powerful people in media and a huge philanthropist was definitely not a straight road. She had a really tough childhood, dealing with poverty and abuse. Then early in her TV career, she got fired from her job as a news reporter because they said she was too emotionally involved in the stories. Can you believe that? The very thing that later made millions connect with her talk show was once seen as a professional flop. But instead of letting that stop her, Oprah used it. She found a different way to use her talents, a show where being empathetic and emotional were her biggest strengths, not weaknesses. Her story really shows how you can turn challenges and what seem like failures into something that helps you grow, both as a person and in your career. These stories aren't just nice to hear, they show us something really important. Dyson and Oprah, and so many other successful people, didn't just put up with failure. They used it. They found wisdom in their mistakes. So the big question is, how can you do that? How do you turn those times when you stumble or don't quite hit the mark into the very thing that pushes you forward? It's not about trying to fail, but about changing how you react when it happens, because it will. Let's get into some real ways you can take your mistakes and make them work for you. First things first, and this is a big one, you've got to reframe what failure means. Instead of seeing it as a knock against you, like it's judging who you are or what you can do, look at it as pure, simple data. Think about it. When a science experiment fails, scientists don't just throw their hands up and say they're terrible scientists. Nope. They look at the results. They ask, okay, what did this tell us? What do we need to tweak? Your failures are like your own personal research and development team. Every setback gives you super valuable info about what's not working, what needs a little change, or what new idea you should try. Research from the University of Chicago even suggests that while failing can bruise the ego, we can definitely learn from it if we step back and analyze. The trick is to see failure as feedback, not the final word on what you're capable of. It's all about having a growth mindset, where you see challenges as chances to get better, not as attacks on your ego. After a setback, ask yourself, what exactly led to this? What can I learn here? And what am I going to do differently next time? All right, so you've accepted that failure is data. Now it's time to really look at that data. This isn't about beating yourself up or pointing fingers. It's about looking at it objectively. A lot of people think failure leads to success more often than it does, mainly because they don't really learn from their slip-ups. To get around this, do a failure autopsy. What was the original plan? Be really clear. What actually went down? Just the facts. What things played a part? Think about your actions, choices, things you couldn't control, and what you assumed would happen. What could you have done differently? Brainstorm other ways you could have approached it. What are the key lessons here? Try to pull out 2 to 3 main takeaways. Write these down. Seriously, keeping a journal or a log of your failures and what you learn from them helps you spot patterns and stop making the same mistakes over and over. It takes a bit of effort to get good at this kind of reflection, but it's so worth it for turning failure into a learning win. That fear of failing, it often makes us put things off, or worse, do nothing at all. We wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, some kind of guarantee that we'll succeed. But perfection isn't real, and waiting for it is a great way to get nothing done. So many great things started out a bit messy. The Wright brothers didn't have a flawless plan for their first flight. They had a hunch, a ton of passion, and they were willing to try, fail, and then try again. Taking imperfect action gives you feedback, gets you moving, and, super importantly, gives you chances to fail small. Those little failures are way easier to learn from and bounce back from than one giant crash after years of doing nothing. Remember, it's usually easier to steer a ship that's already moving than to get a parked one going. So just start, even if it's not perfect. Resilience is all about bouncing back from setbacks, rolling with the punches, and keeping on going when things get tough. It's not about never failing. It's about how fast and well you get back up. And guess what? Failure is a key part of building up that mental toughness. Every time you hit a bump, learn from it, and decide to try again, you're making your resilience muscle stronger. Find ways to cope. Figure out healthy ways to deal with the disappointment or frustration that comes with failing. Maybe it's talking to a mentor, going for a run, or just taking a few deep breaths. Be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you talk to a friend who just messed up. Don't be overly critical. That just makes it harder to get back on track. Keep it in perspective. Remind yourself that a failure is just one part of your story, not the whole thing. Plenty of people have been through similar stuff. We tend to get really focused on performance goals. You know, hitting a specific target, like getting that promotion or launching a killer product. These are important for sure, but they can also make the fear of failure even bigger. Because if you don't hit that exact outcome, it feels like a total loss. So add in some learning goals too. A learning goal is about picking up new skills, knowledge, or understanding, no matter what the immediate result is. For example, instead of just saying, I want to sell 1,000 units of my product, add a learning goal like, I want to figure out why customers aren't buying my product and find 3 ways to fix that. That way, even if you don't sell 1,000 units, a failure in performance, you still hit your learning goal, and you've got great info for your next shot. This way, the process itself becomes a win. You don't always have to be the one face-planting to learn a lesson. In fact, some research shows that people can learn just as much from watching others fail as from seeing them succeed, and often without all the personal angst. Check out case studies, read biographies of successful folks, and pay attention to their setbacks. Or look at failures in your industry. Ask, what went wrong for them? What choices did they make? What could they have done differently? And what can I take from that for my own path? This helps you get wiser without always having to learn the hard way. Whether it's in your own life or at work, it's so important to have a place where people can talk about failure openly and helpfully, without any blame or shame. When people feel safe enough to admit their mistakes and share what they learned, everyone grows faster. If you're a leader, you've got to set the example. Encourage your team to try new things, and when stuff doesn't go to plan, make the conversation about what was learned and how to do better next time, not about whose fault it was. When you start using these strategies, it really changes how you see failure. It stops being this scary thing that causes anxiety and instead becomes this amazing source of growth, new ideas, and strength. When you learn to use failure, you get better at adapting. You build up a stronger set of problem-solving skills. You get more creative because you're not so scared to try things that are a bit out there. You get to know yourself better. And maybe the best part is, you develop this incredible persistence. You start to understand that setbacks aren't roadblocks. They're just detours on the way to where you want to go. This kind of thinking doesn't mean you'll never feel the sting of failure. That's just being human. But it does mean that the sting won't stop you. Instead, it'll fire you up. The path to anything worthwhile is hardly ever a straight line. It's usually full of twists, turns, and failures. For way too long, we've been told to be scared of these moments, to think they mean we're not good enough. But the real deal is, failure isn't the opposite of success. It's a totally necessary part of it. It's the rich, fertile ground where our biggest accomplishments can take root and grow. The secret isn't to avoid falling down. It's to learn how to fall forward, to get back up smarter, stronger, and more determined than you were before. So here's my challenge to you. Stop being scared of failure and start using it. That failure you went through last week, that project that didn't quite work out, that goal you missed, don't try to hide it or run from it. Look at it. Learn from it. Let it be the fuel for your next go. What's one failure you can take another look at this week, not as a defeat, but as a goldmine of valuable lessons? Drop your thoughts and maybe even your best failure-turned-success story in the comments below. I genuinely love to hear how you're turning your setbacks into your setups for something great. And if this hit home for you, if you're ready to really own your journey, bumps and all, make sure to subscribe for more stuff designed to help you be your best. Remember, your failures don't define who you are, but how you bounce back from them absolutely can.